And welcome back to Bedtime Stories. A bit damp today and a bit chilly, but I'm glad you have joined me for some stories before bed. We're going to continue with the Gospel Story Bible and everything a child should know about God. So I hope that you are sitting comfortably, you're nice and snuggly and warm. Then I shall begin with tonight's story, which is called Gideon's Victory. After Gideon tore down his father's idols, the Midianites crossed the Jordan River to attack Israel. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. He blew the trumpet and called for God's people to gather. But Gideon was still not sure God would help him defeat the Midianites. So Gideon laid out a fleece of sheep's wool on the threshing floor and said to God, "If it's really true that you will use me to save Israel, please show me with this fleece. If you allow dew to fall on the fleece, but it is dry on the ground, then I will know you will use me to save Israel, as you have said." In the morning, the fleece was wet and the ground was dry, just as Gideon had asked. But Gideon still did not believe. So this time he reversed his request. The next morning, the ground was wet, but the fleece was dry. Then Gideon knew that God was with him. He gathered 32,000 men of Israel to fight the Midianites. But God didn't need or want that many men to fight with Gideon. He wanted Israel to see that it was his power alone that would rescue them. So the Lord said that anyone who was afraid should go home. After that, only 10,000 men were left. But that was still too many. So when the men went to the river to drink, the Lord told Gideon to keep only those who lapped water up from the river with their tongues like a dog. That left only 300 men. Now, when God defeated the whole Midian army with just 300 men, God alone would get the glory. Gideon and all Israel would know it was only by God's strength that they were saved from their enemies. With only 300 men to fight with him, the Lord knew Gideon was afraid. So he sent him to the Midianite camp to listen to what they were saying. Gideon heard two soldiers talking. One soldier shared a dream, and another soldier told him what it meant. The one interpreting said that the God of Israel was going to give a man named Gideon victory over them. When Gideon heard this, his confidence and faith in God's plan grew. He went back to his camp and prepared his 300 men to attack. Gideon divided the men into 3 groups. He gave each man a trumpet and a clay jar with a burning torch inside. Then Gideon's men surrounded the Midianites. At Gideon's signal, everyone blew their trumpets and smashed their jars. They held up their torches and shouted, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon!" The Lord confused the enemy so much that they began killing each other. Then the Midianites ran away. Gideon sent messengers to the rest of Israel, who chased the Midianites down and defeated the enemy as they ran. Did you know we are saved by God's grace today, just like Israel was in Gideon's day? God saved Israel with only 300 men so that they could see that it was by God's grace, not their own work. They could not boast in their own efforts. Our salvation comes when we, like Gideon, believe in God's plan to save us. We can't do it by our own work either. None of us can boast and say, "I saved myself." The Apostle Paul wrote, For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing, it is a gift from God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. Even with us, God gets all the credit. Let's talk about it. What are the enemy soldiers doing to one another? What did Gideon and his men have to fight with? Who really won the battle for Gideon that day? Everything a child should know about God. This one's called Pilate, that's a person, Pilate, lets the people kill Jesus. Then Jesus' enemies took Jesus to a man named Pilate. He decided what to do with Jesus. He let them have Jesus and they took him away to kill him. You can see Jesus carrying the cross that he will die on. And the question, what is Jesus carrying? Well, he's carrying the cross that he will die on. Let's finish with a prayer and remember a big amen at the end. Dear God, we thank you that you are so strong and you are so mighty that you can win all the battles. You fought the battle and won the battle for Gideon and those small number of men. We thank you that you saved them. We thank you, God, that you have saved us. And you have saved us through your Son, Jesus. And we're reminded in our Everything a Child Should Know About God book, it tells us that Jesus carried his own cross that he was going to die on. And although this is sad, God, we know this is part of your plan to save us. And we thank you that Jesus has done that for us. Amen. Super job, guys. Well, join me on Friday for our last bedtime story. And I hope you don't feel too sad about it, because you can still join me on a Sunday. And of course, you could even go back to the very beginning of our bedtime stories, because there might be some that you missed, and some actually you may just have forgotten the stories that we shared all those months ago. So I am sure that there are plenty of stories for you to listen to. So don't be too sad, even on Friday when it's our last one. But join me and we'll find out what happens next. Is there something else happening with Gideon? Or do we find out about somebody else? Somebody new? Who knows? You'll have to join me on Friday. Until then, take care, sleep tight, night night. God bless, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye, everyone.